and welcome to my channel. Today I have another sort of simple drawing. It's a little snaky. So yeah, let's jump right in. Okay, so, firstly I want to go through my materials that I used for this one. Today I just used watercolor. Kind of a little bit unusual. Usually I have like an ink or, some colored pencils and stuff on top. This was just the watercolor. So usually I do a little bit more mixed media, but this was kind of fun to stay just with the watercolor. So yeah. The materials I used, the watercolor is a Reeves watercolors. That's just sort of what I had in my palette. No particular reason why. They work fine, so I used them. Then I used Canson mixed media paper. It's not the best paper, it's not watercolor paper, so it's kind of part of the reason it's not the best for watercolor, but it did fine. It didn't buckle too much. It's not a super I didn't use a lot of water, so it's not a super water heavy piece, so it didn't really do much to the paper this time. And then the last thing I used were my brushes. I had a Grumbacher brush. Can I say things today? No. Grumbacher brush. And then 2 Princeton brushes. And yeah, those are my fancy brushes, so it was kind of fun to experiment with them. I hardly ever use them because they're my fancy brushes and I don't want to mess them up, which kind of defeats the purpose, but I don't know. That's alright. Yeah, so that's all for the materials really. And then let's jump into the artwork. Let's talk about that. So yeah, I don't usually use just watercolors, so it was kind of fun, especially without line work. I usually rely pretty heavily on line art to sort of take me where I'm going with the piece and like define different pieces, and like here's going to be one definite defining line, and here's where another thing is going to happen, and I know where the shading is going to occur because of where I put the lines. So it's sort of like an easy guide to help me into the artwork and understand where I'm going. But because I didn't have that for this piece, it was really an experimentation, which was really fun. I did lots of layers for this one, so I did lots of building up and experimenting with how I was using these layers, and really pushing the darks a lot more than like felt necessary at the time, but now looking back at it, it really needed those dark shades, so I'm glad I pushed it that way. But yeah, it was mostly an experimentation, and like going into it, I didn't really know how I was going to work and how I was going to get these textures and make it feel like an actual snake, with the like dimension and the scales and the like different colors that like and patterns of the snake, and I didn't know how I was going to incorporate all those without my normal line work. So it was a really great learning experience, and like the whole time I was doing this, I had no idea what I was doing, like literally no idea. I was like, oh, maybe I'll try this, and when it worked out, I was pretty happy about it, which ended up making this a really fun art piece to work on, just in how much I didn't expect and didn't really think about what was going to happen, and it turned out. It was a happy surprise there that I didn't have an exact picture of what it was going to look like in my mind, and usually I do in art, and that usually leads to it not looking right, doing something wrong, because it the picture I have in my brain, it's not going to exactly translate to the paper. But having like not much of an expectation here really led me in some interesting directions, and like it seems like a really simple piece, which it is, but it's a lot more than that as well, I think is what I would say. So yeah, I really love this. Lots of experimentation, and I had so much fun with this piece. It was a real blast, and the flowers were also really fun. I didn't really have pictures for this, so like I think they're kind of based off roses, these flowers, especially in the color idea section of this, but I just sort of made it up, which made it kind of difficult because I wanted to have like shading, and you know, I wanted to be able to show some depth in these flowers, but I didn't know where I was going with them exactly. But I think that the flowers did turn out really well in the end. Some of them I like more than others, but like they're pretty good for like having no reference photo or anything. I did have some reference photos for this snake. It's a type of python. I don't remember what kind, unfortunately, but yeah, it's a type of, constrictor snake, and I knew what kind of patterns it had. And like in the process of planning this piece, I did a lot of like a couple color compositions. I did that on the computer in Krita, and I like took a picture of the sketch and then just splashed in some colors to figure out what I wanted to do. And this is a really limited color palette. It's just sort of the neutral tan of the snake and then the purpley pink of the flowers. And so I had lots of different directions I was thinking of going with it. Like I could have gone like a more extreme purple, or I could have made the snake green. So like there were lots of considerations to do with the color. But I'm really glad I stuck with this one. It really works for the like composition is really neutral, but also has like its own flair, which is really fun, and I love how it turned out, seeing as I didn't have any clue where I was going with it. It was all experimentation, so it was a pretty lucky lucky shot in the dark with that one. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and until next time, live life respectfully. Alright, bye.